This time on Watchers of Tomorrow, chocolate syrup.
Hello everyone, welcome to Watchers of Tomorrow, the sci-fi review and critique show that you can shed like a second skin. My name is Geff, and I'm joined as always by my friend and co-host Dr. Izix.
Hi.
And we got here. Everyone knew it was coming to this in the first season because, there's a character in the first season that stops being in the rest of the show.
Indeed, and it's not the quirkiness of being basically a TOS series.
Yeah. So we've gotten to Skin of Evil. I don't know if people consider this to be the worst episode. It's definitely down there. It's pretty superfluous aside from needing to get rid of a character.
Well, I find a couple things interesting about it, but most of them tend to be this is something where they're actually utilizing this character well here. Well, it'd be nice if it was better connected, to other things that are working in an episode. So, there is. So I would say it has some good elements. Just they're kind of just jumbled all together.
So some background, of course. Denise Crosby, who plays Tasha Yar, was somewhat unhappy with the way her character is being used. She felt like she didn't really have much going. The entire production at this point was so massively underfunded and things that they were stealing craft services from other productions around. Like, I've heard interviews and things from the first season that it was not going well.
Yes, it's like, we have our sets and we got our actors, and what else do we got? Electricity for a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. So Crosby asked if she could be let out of her contract, and to facilitate that, they decided to do an episode where they just killed off her character, which is a bit mean considering literally any other time they remove a character in the show, they're just transferred or something.
Yes. Or, go off to Starfleet Academy.
Yeah, so it's just like, okay, we're killing off the character. There's no chance of you coming back.
Well, this is kind of brutal. Yeah, it's a little. I guess it's a little unsettling that this is that one moment.
So yeah, basically this entire episode was there to get rid of a character, and that's why it doesn't hold together particularly well.
Yeah, it's like, as I said, there's some interesting elements, but it kind of feels like, all right, well, we kind of have to do X. We need to sort of fill in the other details. What are some things we wanted to do, but we haven't had a good chance to actually do yet? It's like, we'll have a good moment between Tasha and Worf, and Troy's going to have an interesting conversation about an antagonist and their internal psychology, and Picard's going to give himself a speech and be kind of stern about stuff, and we'll get plenty of that elsewhere. It's still fun to do, I guess, but
Well, it's really sad because, there's a couple of good scenes, like between Tasha and Worf at the beginning of the episode, and even Denise Crosby said, like, if people had been writing Tasha Yar like that the entire series, she wouldn't have left.
Indeed. Yeah, but as it has been, she and Worf have been kind of just sort of background characters, barely above extras.
Yeah, so who knows what would happen if she'd hung around for season 2 when they started to actually figure stuff out, but This is what we got.
Yes.
So this episode was written by one Joseph William Stefano, who is best known for adapting the book version of Psycho into the Hitchcock film.
Huh. I missed that bit. Whoops.
He also is well known for producing and co-writing the original Outer Limits TV series.
Yes. He's also involved in Swamp Thing.
Which seems apt.
Yes, I believe this is the only TNG episode that they touched, and I don't think they touched any other Star Trek, really, so.
Yeah, I don't think so. So we've got a couple of guest stars. 2 of them are the same person, which is interesting.
Yes. It's weird when you can do that sometimes.
We have Mart McKenzie, who is playing Armus the Body.
Yes, Armus, the body, like a wafer, but more slick and oily.
Yeah, he's one of those actors who did a lot of very, very heavily prosthetic appearances. He's like there are certain actors whose specialty is I am the person you bring in when you want someone to be under super heavy prosthetic makeup because it is incredibly difficult to do.
Yes, and as such, he probably doesn't get as much credit for his acting chops as a lot of other folks get, because sometimes they forget to mention that he's in something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another. He was in another blobby makeup in something called Ensigns of Command, which I haven't seen. I don't think.
I have. There's I believe the plot revolves around there's some non-humanoid aliens that are coming to the planet.
Yeah, okay.
And there's
I remember these things.
Yeah, a bunch of humans on the planet, and the aliens are like, but you told us we could have this planet, so we're just going to kill everybody there. And
now I remember.
And then he played the blobby alien that they were talking to.
Yeah, so there's another blobby alien. I mean, that one looks more like a dude under a sheet. Now it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, they bring him on to play faceless aliens. Then Ron Gaines is the voice of Armus.
The voice.
So there. He's a well-known voice actor. He was the voice of one of the characters in Transformers, someone called Dragstrip. I don't know Transformers well enough.
Yeah, same. So I'm guessing, though, it was some sort of vehicle?
He was an orangutan in Dumbo's Circus, which I've never heard of.
Yes, which was a mid-'80s cartoon. I'm guessing Disney related.
And he played Eeyore in a puppet version of Winnie the Pooh.
It's also, before all of that, a bunch of random sort of side and background characters. Quite often, just the voice. Like a creature from Lost in Space from the episode Space Creature. Or Frog Alien from the same series from The Golden Man. Yeah, so, a lot of behind-the-scenes sort of, no-face version, so for both these actors here.
And then we also have another human character for this, for some reason, because we needed more people in this weird story, I guess. I honestly watched this a little bit ago to write the script, and I very literally did not remember there was another character in this until I was reading this rundown just now. So I guess he makes an impression. So Walker Bone plays Leland T. Lynch, who's an engineer in the episode. He has been in a lot of smaller TV shows and movies, and what I knew him from was later voicing Mario in the Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, the TV show.
Super Mario, boo, doo, 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 doo. And he also came back for Super Mario World. Doo, 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 doo.
Yeah. I don't know how he was able to do that Chris Pratt impression, but yeah.
It's a stone, Luigi.
Right, that's it. That's the guest stars. We have very few people this week.
Well, there was the pilot from the runabout, but he just kind of is unconscious the entire episode. So
yeah, you don't even really see his face. He's just unconscious the entire time.
Mm-hmm. It might have been because it's just the red shirt of the episode. It's like, if I don't move, they think I'm already dead. Maybe I'll survive.
Okay, so we may as well jump in because I don't know this episode, man. Just
yeah. Well,
I'll be honest, I wasn't looking forward to this one.
We'll stumble through it. Don't worry.
So the Enterprise is en route to rendezvous with the shuttle that was carrying Deanna Troi, who's been at a conference for something.
Probably something psychology related.
Yeah. They're moving at impulse because they're doing maintenance on the dilithium crystals. It's important somehow. On the bridge, there's a bit of a nice interaction with Worf and Yar, talking about an upcoming martial arts competition that she's been training for. She's worried about her opponents, but Worf is like, no, you're going to beat them all up. Also, it's for the honor of the ship, and you're favored in the pool.
Yeah. And she's like, wait, you're betting on me? It's like, yeah, it's like guaranteed. Come on. So this means, I guess, two important things. That one, Worf is not participating, possibly because, he's worried that he get beat up by her. And two, she has Worf's respect. And, when you sort of get further into the series and things like that, Worf respecting someone as a warrior is kind of like a big deal. So,
I know, it's very sad that because she's leaving the show in this episode, we never get to have the entirely unanswered question, who would win in a fight, Worf or Yar?
Yes. At this point, it seems that Worf is kind of leaning on Yar being the victor, but, later on, we don't know, because, Worf does, level up effectively, so...
So when they're about an hour away from the shuttle, they receive a distress call. The shuttle's had a systems failure, is unable to confirm their location, losing flight control, etc., etc. Picard orders the new chief engineer, Lynch, to get warp power back, meaning they need to align the warp crystals manually.
This seems like a tricksy thing, because, we got a high precision, reactor system that effectively bends space and time, in order to warp space, subspace around the ship in order to make it go faster than light. This is sort of like one of those things you don't really want to fiddle with by hand. You want to have at least some, idea about, exact precision and all that sort of stuff. But I guess, if you just kind of like, well, whatever. That's
Apparently
fine
you
too.
can. Maybe that's what the chief engineer is in charge of. I don't know. I just got this like mental image of him just having to like jab a wrench into the warp core and pilot the thing around. It's like a little to the left.
All right,
Okay.
it's giving me little vibrations. That's not good. Okay, back. Okay, there we go.
So the shuttle becomes trapped in the planet's gravity well, and then they lose contact.
They're going to burn up in the atmosphere, aren't they?
Probably. I mean, these shuttles seem to be designed for crashing. They do it a lot.
Yeah.
Lynch is able to get the engines working, and they're able to warp off to the planet just in time to find the shuttle. So, yay. When they've arrived, they have trouble finding anything on the planet. There's no life signs. There's some debris, but there's something kind of blocking the shuttle. So
That's weird. Maybe there's some sort of, crazy metal, because we run into those occasionally in space, apparently, that, was potentially valuable. And maybe there's going to be like a gold rush situation here. But first, as ships start warping in and realizing what was discovered, we still got to get our shuttle out. But they're like, we're going to start mining now, and we're going to start shooting lasers at the planet and then beaming stuff up. And like, could you not? But that's a completely different plot that I don't think they've actually done technically. Huh.
So they can't beam anyone out of the shuttle is the practical upshot of this. So Riker has to go down to the away team with Data, Yar, and Dr. Crusher in case anybody's injured.
Yes. But
So they beam down to a big barren rock. The shuttle's buried under more rocks, and the team approaches to find an oil slick between them and the ship.
Oh no.
They try to go around it, but the oil slick actually moves as they do to continue blocking them.
Wait. Is this a ferro, liquid here? Are any of us magnetic? We could be just pulling it along as we go around.
That is true. Maybe Data's magnetic.
Yeah.
So this doesn't make any sense, because according to Data, there's no sign that the thing is alive in any way, except that it moves and is responding to their actions. So he can theorize that it is in fact a life form, which is pretty confirmed when the oil slick starts insulting him.
Well, I guess, it's probably good then that he did call it a life form, because, if he's like, oh, this is not a life form, then the insults might have been much worse, much more harmful.
A big, drippy humanoid raises up from the oil.
As oil does. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole episode is just a metaphor for the oil industry.
Great. We're going to have the oil barons after us now.
So Riker tries to reason with the oil monster, who identifies himself as Armus. The away team asks to get by, but Armus says no and is annoyed. They want to save the shuttle, and that they say they value all life, etc. Armus does not share this opinion. He's like, no, I don't value life. I kill people for fun. Ha!
Oh, well, in that case, maybe we should, leave for the moment and think about this.
You'd think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yar gets annoyed with this and starts to just walk to the shuttle, but Armus hits her with an energy bolt that sends her flying. They shoot Armus. It doesn't do anything. He just absorbs it. Crusher gets to Yar and confirms that she is dead.
Oh, no!
That's it. Just out of nowhere, all dead. Bye.
Yeah, we're in the first, few minutes of the episode here. So, yeah, this is... usually on Star Trek, this means that we're going to come up with a miracle cure and bring her back to life, or, she's mostly dead, but, there's going to be a last-minute recovery, or, there's going to be, they're going to convince Armus to bring her back to life after the commercial break, and Armus is going to be like, ha ha ha, sure, but only so I can make you suffer, blah.
Now, they beam everyone back, and Yar's dead. Too damaged to be revived.
Yes, super dead. Like, your brain is depolarizing, and I don't know what that means exactly, but I'm guessing it involves, like, all the, neurons in your head are just detaching from everything. So,
as far as I understand, that's what happens when you have a migraine. So,
yeah. So,
can't
migraines.
be that bad, honestly.
It means you've been attacked by an oil monster, get one?
Oh, no.
So be careful.
This is really sudden character death. It's supposed to be shocking. They don't do it well. And I want to say that, like, I previously had kind of mildly defended Roddenberry's take on this, which is, as a security officer in the unpredictableness of space, like, death is just sudden and abrupt and possibly meaningless, and that's appropriate to show on screen. You could do that. That's not what was done here.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen this episode in too long, and while I do think that there's a valid argument to have that you can show death as a sudden, out-of-nowhere thing, as it's not often depicted in film, they don't. There's no weight. There's no emotional weight to this, somehow. Well, I don't know enough about filmmaking to know what they did wrong, but they did it.
Well, I think part of it is sort of the reaction by the characters, around the death. That at a certain level, there's the next scene coming up where they're upset around the conference table, but Picard's like, all right, stiff upper lip, everyone, we gotta do our mission here, and so stop reacting to the obvious death of your friend here. So
yeah, they're a bit too good at we just have to do the job that's in front of us thing.
Mm-hmm. Which, I guess that's sort of like a Starfleet ethos to a certain degree, but, it makes everyone a little too inhuman to what's happened. So, it makes it, not in total work at all.
So back on the planet, Armus oozes over to the shuttle and starts talking to Troy. Armus wants to send her into despair, as the crew's never coming back, and he killed Yar for no reason, and how does that make you feel? Ha-ha! Troy, however, is not breaking and not playing along. Armus gets annoyed.
Mm-hmm. So Troy's pretty good at annoying him, and this is sort of, the beginning of sort of her arc through this episode where, there's, some good banter here, and she's sort of probing at him. But Armus is not having any of it right now.
So, back on the ship, they're all upset about Yar's sudden death and how it's pointless and whatever, but as you said, Picard goes, nope, we have to do what we're doing. Stop it. Worf now is head of security. That is as it will be for the rest of the series until we get to DS9.
Mm-hmm.
Riker goes back down, this time with Geordi, hopefully to get a better look at the thing, because somehow their scanners never work as well as Geordi's visor does.
Yes. I guess there may be a certain thing with their scanners where it's like all algorithmed up, that it's like, all right, well, it'll tell me if this is X or Y, and if it's neither and it's confused, it'll give me a unknown sample sort of reaction here, and I'll look on all confused like, well, Geordi's like, I have a little bit more brains than a tricorder, so I'll just sort of look at this thing as like, okay, I can get a general feel of what's going on.
Yeah, maybe you can interpolate the data better because it's an actual brain.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they never explain it. It's just better technology somehow.
Yes.
I think it's interesting because any other series, like later ones or something, this would have been like, he has a unique whatever device that we found in the wreckage of an ancient alien spacecraft and we can never replicate and whatever. This is just like, it just works different.
Yeah.
Fine.
So, we don't have to worry about, having it be tech of the week that suddenly goes away, but we'll ignore it plenty of, going forward anyway, so,
Mm-hmm. So they arrive to find Armus covering the shuttle. Inside, they're trying to torment Troy more. Armus is surprised that the crew returned, that Troy guesses that this is because he was left alone by someone who didn't return. He goes, "Rah! Stop knowing who I am. Go away."
How dare you know that I'm a lonely kind of asshole here?
Back on the ship, Worf has detected that the energy field that's preventing them from just beaming Troy out has weakened when Armus draped over the shuttle. They're not sure why, but they'll keep seeing if there's a pattern. Possibly the energy thing is weakened when Troy annoys him.
Yes. So
They
keep an
wouldn't
eye
know
out.
that,
Yeah, keep an eye on this graph all the same here.
Look at this graph. Armus teases the away team. He lets them talk to Troy for a minute, then gets like angry or something. Data can't detect them. He yells about Data's instruments and sends them flying around. He makes Geordi's visor fall off, and then they do the haha, you can't find your glasses thing.
Yeah, and Data's like, all right, I can't physically help him, but I can tell him where it's at, and Armus moves it, and as Geordi sort of starts, reaching for that, bit of ground there, and it's like, well, go ahead and help him again, and Data's like, nah.
Yeah, they give up trying to play along, and he gets bored.
Mm-hmm.
Armus just gets bored, and then moves back to the shuttle.
Well, Well, that was unproductive, but I guess we know that he gets bored. That's something.
So since Troy was right that the crew won't amuse Armus, we've now unlocked Armus' backstory.
Dun, dun, dun. So what is his backstory?
Well, apparently there used to be people who lived here on this barren rock, and they did something that purged themselves of evil, and eventually creating a second skin, like a skin of evil, as you might say.
Yes. And something that you can just pull off, I guess.
Yeah, then they left, and Armus was alone. Troy pities Armus, and they get angry and run off to absorb Commander Riker.
Well, I guess that would be the right person to target to, get under Troy's skin there, to their whole past relationship. But to a certain degree, it's sort of like, okay, so you've absorbed Riker, so does that mean he's dead too? No!
Nope. Only one character death per episode. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's trapped inside Armus, though, which leads Picard to beam down and try to negotiate face-to-face. Armus is initially pleased that he has a new person to play with, but then it's like, this person is just stoic and boring.
Well, is this what everyone's like out in space? Maybe I'm better off here.
Armus decides to force Data to grab a phaser with his mind powers. Starts threatening Picard and Crusher. They say Crusher needs to pick who dies, and she goes, oh, I am the one who needs to die, but that's no fun, so... Yeah. Also, Data doesn't feel bad about being forced to kill, because not only does he have no emotions, but also it wouldn't be his decision if Armus is forcing him to do it.
Yeah, so, Data realizes I have no moral responsibility here, so... Bleh.
Picard's done with this, demands to see his people. Armus is still bored, but spits out Riker to show he's alive. Picard orders them all to beam away, leaving just him and Armus.
Mm-hmm. It's like, well, Armus, you wanted to be amused. Well, guess what? That ain't happening.
So Armus is now willing to negotiate that everyone's gone. They want off the planet. They're lonely. They want to leave. Picard says he'll consider it, but they need to let him see Troy. Armus transports him to the shuttle, which I didn't know he can just transport people. He's a super powerful zoo monster.
Well, also to very sort of limited range. So, he can't teleport himself off the planet, but he can beam people around just that area of the set.
So Picard asks Troy if she knows why Armus seems to be getting weaker when they're talking to her. She says that Armus is filled with rage. They mostly suppress it inside, but when they express it, they lose power. So, holding in your emotions gives you power. We're working under Matilda rules here.
So, I guess, Armus would be, in terms of the Force here, he'd be oddly enough more on the Jedi side, while, his releasing his rage actually makes him weaker. Huh.
So Picard is transported back out. Armus wants to leave now. Picard says no. Armus is weak and fragile, and lying to themselves, and just prods at him until it gets angry. Worf sees the energy field dropping, sets the transporter to automatically beam up the crew as soon as it drops to a low enough level.
Oh, that's quite clever, Worf. And it's good you stayed up here to be all like tactical position, not necessarily point phases at people sort of position here. Good work.
Yeah, there's some thinking.
Yeah.
Picard tells Armus that they're not evil. Not really. Their real evil is to submit to something like them. Like, yeah, Armus could kill them all, but then they'd still be alone. You know, what good that's going to do you?
Yeah. So, Armus, you really need to, like, learn to work with people. Just threatening and killing them it just makes you a jerk, and no one wants to deal with you.
So, Armus gets angry. The energy levels drop. Picard and Troy are beamed back to the ship, leaving Armus alone again. They set a quarantine for the planet, so no one else will go near here, though. To be fair, they didn't try to. They crashed.
There's maybe an implication that Armus was able to, like, interfere with the shuttle systems, maybe, or it just was a random crash because space happens sometimes.
So now that that's all dealt with, they all move off to Yar's funeral. Yar's recorded her own goodbye because she knows she's in a dangerous job, so she's recorded a holographic message for everyone.
Yes.
There's some stuff like how Troy let her fit in and not be weak, how Worf is basically the same character as her, how Data sees things with the wonder of a child, which is very creepy given other things we know about those two.
Yep. It's like, Data, there's a reason I said it never happened, because I'm creeped out now.
And Picard's the father she never had, except since she's never had a father, maybe not.
Yes, so I think you might be a dad-like character in my life, but I don't know.
They're all sad.
Also, Wesley's there.
Yeah, for some reason. He's just there.
Yeah, he needs to get a check for this week.
They're all sad. Data wonders if he's supposed to be thinking about how much he'll miss Yar. And Picard goes, well, yeah, that's what the whole thing's for, dude.
Mm-hmm. It's like you totally get it, Data. You're like becoming more human by realizing that. Troy was kind of teary-eyed in this scene here, and that's not like fake tears. That's actually Marina Sirtis like actually crying because she was going to miss Denise Crosby.
Because the other woman on the show is gone now.
Yeah,
just left with the Doctor, who's not in every episode.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone makes fun of this scene just because for some reason Yar knew where everyone was going to stand. You don't think they could program a hologram to like face people?
Yeah.
For emotional impact? Come on.
Yeah, it makes sense that be a part of the goodbye program to direct me at the person who I'm addressing if they are present.
And, yeah, you could do that.
And you could also have it so that you address the people that are present. So if someone's not in attendance or there's people there that aren't in this particular scene, the message would have been, what came out of the hologram would have been different,
So, Skin of Evil, what did we think?
I shared most of my thoughts previously, but I guess on a fresh watching, given, how much other Star Trek I've seen, it is not terrible, but also below average, I suppose you could say. Yeah. And in the meta context of the series, a bad move, to basically make things so insufferable that they lose somebody and then have to make a kind of meh episode to sort of cover it. So yeah, general badness, but as I said, there are nuggets of good stuff going on here.
Yeah, there's some good character stuff, which is disappointing because if they knew how to write the characters, they could have made it better overall.
Mm-hmm.
And they just perfunctorily had to get rid of a character.
Yes, it's like
which is interesting.
I do. Go ahead.
It's really interesting because a friend of mine pointed out that we're kind of numb to this now because there's entire series that are based on the idea of killing off main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And with serialized TV, like this has become very, very commonplace. But back then in the late 80s when this episode came out, killing off a character in a long-running syndicated TV show, like this was the first season, but still, it was basically unheard of.
Indeed. It's sort of a wow, this is both shocking and means that anyone could potentially die, not just in this episode, but in the series in general. And I guess this is sort of a thing that was also sort of, renowned for, that Babylon 5 was renowned for, that, characters, are not immune to the plot happening and causing them bad stuff. Either, massive character changes, scars and things like that, or, outright death. But Babylon 5 was, mid-90s. This is, a few years back before then, where it was sort of like, yeah, that just didn't happen.
Yeah, which also, while it's really interesting, it also just makes it so much more disappointing that it didn't have the emotional impact that it should have.
Mm-hmm.
Because you did kill a character in a time when that was a massive deal.
Yeah, well, I guess maybe one explanation for why there is not as much of a emotional impact here, outside the in-universe stuff I mentioned earlier, is that they didn't really know how to write that yet.
That is true, because they wouldn't have had a lot of experience.
Yes. If this was a little bit more common by this point, maybe they would have some more clues that, oh, we should really have some things where maybe most of the characters are sort of, nose to the grindstone, let's get this stuff done. But, maybe one or two people are having a harder time with it. Especially, say, a younger character like Wesley, who is like, this Tosh is dead. I'd like to help you, Worf, but I don't know if I can right now. And then Worf, who maybe is still struggling himself here, is like, all right, I'm going to help you to help myself, not focus on it, and we'll solve this problem and get our people out. And there could have been some good sort of interactions there between these two characters that don't normally have any reason to interact. There but as what we get is that they're just kind of working on the computer. Wesley's like, I'm being computer kid here, and Worf's looking over his shoulders and pointing at graphs. It's like, okay.
I think that, thinking about it, the main issue that they have with not being able to handle this well is this weird other plot line that they have in there for some reason. You could have done a much better episode on this if you had her die actually getting Troy out of a dangerous situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the episode is everyone dealing with that.
Yeah.
Like, instead of having a completely disconnected thing, they barely even mention Yar for the rest of the episode while they're dealing with Armus.
Indeed.
And then right at the end, they have the funeral.
It's like, oh yeah, we need to resolve that other thing that happened, I guess. Yeah, I think you're quite right, and it'd be a chance to sort of look into things like survivor's guilt, not only for the crew in general, but how Troy is sort of dealing with that as the person who was rescued. So you get to a situation where this is a character that's supposed to be helping everyone else deal with their grief, who is maybe the hardest hit because of how in the situation they were.
So yeah, overall, you have main character death as a B plot.
Mm-hmm.
And then something largely unintelligible as an A plot.
Yeah. It's like, well, we got this plot with evil cast-offs here. Do we ever figure out who was responsible for this? No, it's just sort of there, and you got to piss it off, and then it loses power, I guess.
Which they did as they did this as an episode of Rick and Morty. They feel like actually explored the concept.
I don't think I've seen that episode.
They purge all of the unwanted things from themselves and create gooey versions of themselves with all their negative aspects.
Well, I guess that there's a bit of character exploration to be done there. Not only to what are their negative aspects, but maybe what they think their negative aspects are.
Yeah, that was the main thing that they had in the episode, actually.
Yeah, which is actually something I wanted to talk about a little bit with Armus as a character here. That Armus is this entity of supposed ultimate, all the evil bits of a whole bunch of people. So what does that mean in terms of what they were actually casting out? Apparently, sadism they didn't want to be dealing with here. Boredom is also one of them, maybe. Because Armus is bored, just living on a planet with no one to talk to or torture, And so maybe that was another thing that they cast away. So, they're...
So you get a lot of very unbored monks somewhere who just sit around not being bored all day.
Yep. And what else? I guess, there's a certain amount of rage, of course, but also a certain amount of controlling that rage. So, does this mean that these monks somewhere are full of rage because, they don't think that's, are willing to express it, and because they think keeping it in is bad? Or do they have no rage, but also have dropped the part that would have let them suppress it as well?
Well, possibly they valued showing emotions and not suppressing them, and the only emotion that this dude got was rage and anger. So now he just suppresses that all the time, and they're off not suppressing all their other emotions.
Yes. So I guess I'm trying to think what sort of species out there might be fitting the has not these traits sort of things here as far as our various uber beings we run into. And my best guess is probably the Organians. They're like, we're just kind of chill all the time, and we don't want to be angry at people, and we're gonna be all like, oh, you're doing some mean stuff here. That's not cool, but we're not really gonna be angry about it. Just disappointed.
Interesting idea.
Yeah.
They are the evolved non-corporeal beings, etc.
So Armus could be the cast-offs, the leavings of the Organians.
Which one were they? Which episode were they in? Where's the thing?
Errand of Mercy.
There it was. Yeah. So you can go back and listen to that if you want to hear about all the Organians, which show up for 10 minutes at the end.
Yeah, well, they were technically there earlier. You just didn't know what they were about.
Yeah.
Though Organians do show up in Enterprise for an episode.
Yeah, of course they do.
In sort of a sort of Prime Directive episode after a fashion that they are visiting the ship in order to observe how the crew deals with a particular sort of problem that may very well get them all killed.
I don't remember that one. I only saw Enterprise once.
And they're basically body hopping between various characters because that's what they want to do here, as opposed to manifesting, elsewise.
I guess they didn't want to hire actors.
Want a bottle show, and that's about it. You need a bottle show, so everyone act weird.
I thought it was kind of interesting to look at the idea. This thing is this is the manifestation of evil, the actual, physical thing that is evil. Because, of course, evil is a broad, universal human concept that we've been trying to work out since the beginnings of history and philosophy and whatever, right?
Indeed. In fact, I have a few tabs here, just all right, here's a list of philosophers talking about and trying to define it and how they can, disagree and what things are, a little bit more common, but not necessarily, and what they think about motivation or, lack of motivation and natural versus moral, et cetera, sort of stuff here.
Well, what I thought was very interesting is evil as concept, of course, has existed for as long as we've got written philosophy in one way or another.
Yes.
We got the Greeks dealing with it, etc., etc. But evil, the concept that we think of now, is actually incredibly recent and mostly entered writing following World War II.
It's well, that really sucked. Maybe we should try to re-understand evil because, wow.
Well, you have this interesting thing, because evil is not, in fact, a universal concept when you are dealing with it in philosophy. And there's kind of a pre- and post-World War II split. So you have kind of the broad understanding of evil, which is kind of anything bad that ever happens.
Yes.
A hurricane can be evil, even though it's not done by anyone, or someone kind of like lying to you about something that doesn't really matter can be evil. Like a moral agent, like philosophy is very concerned with the idea of a moral agent, which is anything that is a moral being that can think and make its own decisions. So
indeed,
someone who's capable of not doing bad things and chooses to do a bad thing, that is evil, as a moral agent is doing it, etc.
Now, was it Aristotle, Socrates, Plato? I think it's Plato, actually, who's like, sort of made a clear, division between, the moral agent sort of side of things and everything else. That, these things cause, evil effects, but we can't really, blame anyone for them, so we're not going to worry too much about them.
But that's evil in the broad philosophical and theological sense. Any bad thing that happens. Yes. It's very tied to this problem of evil argument that you get into with religion, of if there is a good all-knowing God, then why do bad things happen? It's that kind of evil.
Yes. And then, you got your cosmic clockmaker who's now hands-off sort of stuff here and can factor into all that for the natural side. And, I gave you free will, so anything you choose to do that's evil, that's on you guys.
The idea of evil as we understand it, and largely what they're dealing with in this episode, because, Armus is a evil being. It does terrible things to people for no reason. But specifically to people, saying that they're making the choice to do so.
Yeah, I have, Armus wants something, and that is to see people suffer for his amusement. Yes. And so he chooses to make them suffer.
This is a much more recent, very narrow idea of evil, which came about after World War II. This is a moral agent is doing something unimaginably bad. And also, it is evil in distinction to bad. Not the encompassing of bad, like the broad sense of evil where, a hurricane is a bad thing that happens and is part of the general evil of the world.
Yes.
But this is distinct from bad. Someone lying to you about whether or not they cut in line is bad, but not evil. Someone killing someone is evil. There is a distinction in the levels of harm being done given the action.
Indeed.
This philosophy came about after World War II, obviously because we had to start dealing with the idea that really, really, really horrible things happened during World War II. This is the idea of evil where people are trying to wrestle with why are moral beings doing genocides? Why would anyone do a terrorist attack? Like, how is a serial killer working? Like, what is this horrible, horrible thing that is such a breach of what we would think of as normal morality that it becomes distinct from wrong or bad?
So you get, people, I guess, to a certain degree, who were taught that evil is also those cut and line situations, now realizing, there's like a whole other degree of just the worst here that was completely unimaginable given what we had been sort of seeing as the evils of the world. So having a sort of a separation between those now makes sense, because otherwise you're stuck sort of like, yes, this mild inconvenience is the same sort of level of something that we should be rejecting as this mass murder of millions of people, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, you can't really go, genocide is just part of the general evil, because the general evil also includes a tornado. But a genocide is planned, it's thought out, it's systematized.
Yes. There is multiple actors involved here. There is people that are causing it to happen via their will, people that are allowing it to happen via inaction and the lack of will of to oppose it, as well as plenty of people that it's like, oh, this actually, I've been convinced that this is a good idea by the instigators, and so I will pursue it along with them because I can get away with that now. And yeah, all of that is just so much extra on top of everything that there is definitely a moral damage that is sort of being sort of exposed here that not only allows but requires people to take these horrible actions because they think it's a good idea now.
Which is actually kind of interesting. This is obviously, I do not think, intended in the episode, which I think is part of the problem. They didn't really think through what Armus is supposed to be or what they are supposed to represent.
Yes.
But it's interesting that they kind of accidentally stumbled into something that you can think about, because the way that we tend to think about evil now, and to be clear, this is not really represented by a lot of the theories of evil that came about after World War II, but a lot of the ways that we like to think about evil in modern society is very individualized. The horrible things that happened during World War II happened because Hitler was evil. The one dude was evil, he got into power, and a lot of evil things happened, and that explains the thing.
And, all those generals and advisors and, party faithful at the top there, they were, they would have been doing who knows what other thing that isn't necessarily so awful if he wasn't there. And once again, I'm having to say, that sounds ridiculous.
But when you get to Armus, they are represented as an individual. But through their backstory, we learn that they are not, in fact, an individual. They are the collective negativity of an entire civilization.
Indeed.
Which, if you look at a lot of theories of how evil things happen, that is a lot more of our contemporary way of thinking. It is a system of system of things that all lead to a especially negative outcome, when in a lot of cases no particular individual had to have had that much of an evil intention.
Yeah, sort of a little bit of evil from a lot of different sources creates a big evil.
Now, in the case of something truly horrifying, which we were dealing with in like World War II, you had a lot of people believing really, really horrible things and putting those horrible things into action, though they were all convinced that they were doing a net positive for themselves. They were able to dehumanize and convince themselves that others were evil, so any harm that they did to that group was, of course, good.
Which I would suppose in this particular case for Armus that that was not their particular problem, the people that were casting him off. But then again, we don't necessarily have enough time to explore that possibility in terms of character development.
Well, yeah, unless they were incredibly xenophobic and that got put into their general evil pool, the amount of stuff that you need to do to be able to completely dehumanize someone until to the idea that destroying another human being would actually be a good act for you to partake in, like that you are doing a moral good by killing a bunch of people. You need a lot of stuff to line up for that to happen beforehand.
Indeed. Unfortunately, though, that does happen with folks, and yeah.
So overall, well, I don't think that they really intended it. Having an amalgamation being doing the truly evil things does lead you to some interesting stuff there, because maybe no particular individual in this was particularly bad. Yeah, but an amalgamation of all of that becomes like capable of just needless killing and all this other junk.
I guess it's also sort of interesting that Armus sort of rejects the value of life stuff right from the start. That it's obviously a thinking creature, that it is perhaps internally evaluated itself and decided, I'm just not going to have any sort of concept, as far as what would be a moral good at all. And so I'm just going to sort of reject, anything that, does not bring me pleasure as, something to be either frustrated with or ignored.
Well, that one is particularly interesting as like extreme hedonism. Not precisely, hedonism does not usually get into sadism, but is an extreme. It's like anything that doesn't bring me immediate pleasure is not worth considering. But it very much immediately sets up a clear black and white dichotomy the way that they want you to think about it, when in fact you could have some amount of debate there. The Federation's stated concept is all life is inherently valuable and worth doing whatever is necessary to preserve. Armus is saying, I disagree with that assertion. Neither of them is making a particular argument. But all we're doing is saying the one side saying all life is intrinsically valuable and should be preserved is the good side, and disagreeing with that is the evil side. When I think philosophically, well, I haven't done enough research on this, you could in fact have a actual debate about this.
Like, Armus is like, if you give me a moment to explain, I view viruses as alive, and I think they should all be destroyed.
Yeah, you definitely wind up into some problems with that kind of concept, right? If all life is worth being preserved, you run into an inherent conflict when some life has to be sacrificed in order for other life to live.
And all the dangerous bacteria, that needs to go too, and mosquitoes, screw those guys.
Or even something as simple as a predator-prey dynamic.
Like, well, these wolves are hungry. If we don't have something to feed them, then, what should we do?
Unless their ecosystem has been completely destroyed, just replicating meat for all the predators isn't very viable. And they have to have incredibly controlled breeding programs for the non-predators, the herbivores, otherwise they're going to have a population boom and eat themselves to death. Exactly.
So you have to sort of make a certain allowance for natural systems that have death as part of the components there to continue to be acting as they are, because otherwise, you're going to have to basically be the full-time manager of your entire environment 24/7 here in order to meet this particular high standard of valuing all life and wanting it to effectively live for as long as possible.
Something that they never really get into with any of these "this is evil" creatures, which you hit a few times. We had almost exactly the same thing in the animated series with the entity that takes over the ship briefly. You wind up just leaving them on these planets when they state that part of their motivation is that they are alone and friendless and unhappy.
Yes. It's like, well, we're going to, punish you for taking over our ship by, making the thing that motivates you to try to take over our ship, make it just worse, Which
is also a particularly modern religious view of evil, in that it is so intrinsic to the entity that no amount of circumstance is going to change that.
Yeah, there's no room for evolution. There's no room for forgiveness even. So better cast it aside and leave it there forever, and hopefully no one picks it up.
And in fact, well, I think also unintentional, the very first thing they say to Armus is that they value all life over everything else. They identify Armus as a form of life due to his interactions with them. Then Picard spitefully abandons him to his professed torturous solitude.
Yes. It's like, well, so you I guess technically didn't kill him, but, you're going to make him suffer forever. Congrats on being the good guy? ?
And, you could definitely see that as that kind of spiteful thing, like that thing they do in Doctor Who all the time, which could work very well for a character like that in this instance. Like, you needlessly killed one of my crew members, and I'm going to do something out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you always have several of the Doctor Who series always have that, like, oh, now I'm taking things seriously and you should not have ticked me off moment.
Yeah, I wanted to, play it nice with you and, lead you out of this path that you were going on, but you decided violence instead.
Hmm.
Kind of wonder now, if, okay, so you don't let Armus have a shuttle or anything like that, but what if you beamed down a communication relay? Made it
Yeah, that probably would be a good way to start. You could have someone talk to him for ages.
Yes.
See if they're reforming, then slowly let them into situations where they can interact with more and more living entities.
Exactly. Be sort of a full-time job for the person talking to him. But if you really do want this entity to be able to thrive and live its best life, then that's kind of what you need to do. Don't fall within its sphere of make your shuttle crash, of course, but start chatting with it and see if you can change as far as giving up that whole murder people for no reason stuff.
Just seems interesting that they just didn't really explore a lot of stuff they could, which also ticks me off a little bit, given that they definitely didn't explore the tragedy of a character death to focus on this other plot line that they also didn't explore in any particular way.
Yeah. It's like, come on, guys, if you can't do either your plots justice, given you have this other plot going on, then maybe just stick to one. Sorry, I'm still thinking about someone on a radio call with Armus here, and maybe it leads to maybe an interesting sort of dilemma, something sort of akin to a Turing test. At what point can you say that Armus has been reformed to the point of being approachable in a face-to-face sort of situation here? That if Armus is capable of self-lying, obviously can lie to others. And you can have a situation where it tries to basically weasel its way into such a meeting in order to get, leverage, to escape its situation. What sort of, I guess, ways to sort of safeguard against that if it's only, a voice communication or even video potentially?
Oh, you can. I mean, you have some minor things, but this is a problem too, that people want to solve these problems in a no trust scenario.
Yes.
And you just can't. It doesn't work.
I guess there is maybe a very Star Trek point where, someone maybe like, 5 or 6 people down the road, in terms of people who have talked to Armus for lengthy periods of time, spending decades and decades being his friend and things like that, decides, you know what? I'm going to offer my hand of trust, and if he, kills me, tortures me, uses me to do horrible things, whatever, then that will be sort of a warning that, for people down the road that, maybe, a few more centuries is probably a good wait before giving another opportunity.
Well, the sad thing really is at the end, you did demonstrate the concept. He's not going to kill the last of the people around, because then he'd just be all lonely again.
Mm-hmm. So I guess to a certain degree, you could, just have someone even show up, but only one. So anyway, Lower Decks.
Yeah, that was the only funny thing they did with him.
If for folks who've not seen it, slight spoilers, I guess, but there's sort of a gag for one of the episodes. Like, yeah, we can have our voice appear on a planet over yonder, and let's go bother Armus. And so they do. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they could have explored more deeply here that it just gets left by the wayside again. But I guess I do have one final thing to maybe bring up here. Is Armus being what he is in terms of a creation, is he, at the end of the day, morally responsible for his damage?
I mean, you really get into a bit of a debate on free will at that point.
Indeed. If
Like
he
it,
was,
and we aren't given
you know,
enough of enough information to be able to know its internal thought processes.
true. If this is a being that was effectively devised to always be the most bad it can be, then it's and to resist any sort of evolution away from that pattern, because otherwise it's not our incarnation of evil that we've left behind. You could have a situation where even if Armus wants to, effectively reform, you could, it might be internally, set up to not be able to. At which point, it's kind of screwed in terms of, having a full ability to make decisions.
Well, you really only have two realistic scenarios to look at on this. Oh, possibly three, because we've covered one a bit earlier.
Yeah.
That either this, whatever it is not really a fully sentient being capable of making its own decisions. It just does evil things because that's what it's there for. Making it essentially a machine, putting the moral responsibility back onto those that created it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Or the evilness is simply an overwhelming part of its being, so even though it may want to make different decisions, they just can't because of the overwhelming drive of the evilness that was put into them. This gets into a very, very complicated dilemma that we would have to spend a lot more time unpacking on, to how much you judge a moral agent based on compulsion.
Indeed.
Like if someone has a overwhelming, uncontrollable, psychological compulsion that makes them really, really uncontrollably want to smack you, are they morally culpable for that action or not?
Yeah. They might attempt to resist this, but their conscious decision-making processes might not be capable of preventing them from doing such things. And and so you get this sort of a this is maybe not a person that is engaged in a willful act of evil here, but is effectively mentally ill. And so how you sort of think about and treat this person would be a bit different than this person is just always bad, and sort of this absolutist sort of view there.
And then you have the other scenario, which is the Armus is evil because they are in a particularly bad situation, in which case a lot of the moral culpability falls onto all of those who conspired to create said situation.
Mm-hmm. So once again, we have to call up the Argadians and say, "Hey guys," or whoever it is actually involved as far as this initial creation. And then they'll be like, "So, Picard, you just sort of left him there." And like, "Oh, yeah, I guess we could have maybe tried to fix the situation somewhat here." Whoops. But we don't explore any of that, too.
That does get into whether or not you feel like this entity is sentient enough to count as a moral agent or not.
Yes.
Which they don't really give you enough to figure out.
Yeah, they try to at least establish that it's alive, super hardcore at the beginning, but as far as that sort of upper level sort of evaluation, we kind of stopped thinking about things before then.
All right, I think that's everything everyone had.
Well, there is one more thing I wanted to sort of bring up there, and that's the one bit where Armus asks Data what he thinks, and Data's like, no redeeming values. I think you must be destroyed.
Well, that's the other side of the compulsion argument. Or possibly the machine argument, either of those.
Yes.
You get into a scenario where if something is fully incapable of not doing harm, then you're left with a scenario in which you have to remove them from the ability to do harm, which leaves you with either completely removing the thing from contact with anything it could do harm to, which, as Armus stated entirely, is harmful to themselves.
Indeed.
Or you destroy them, hopefully mercifully, in a unpainful way in order to continue to prevent them from doing harm. And there's a particularly bad set of arguments that you get into with that, but largely it would be completely dependent on the ability of reform or not.
Indeed, and but it seems here that Data either is going pro-death penalty or has made an internal decision that Armus is more on the machine side of things in terms of control and action reaction sort of situations here. But if it's that former one, though, that's kind of a big deal, given that we have already kind of established about Data and things like that. And much more as we get things further forward. That it's like, I have an ethical program, he states later, that helps him make good decisions and things like that. So the only time that he's willing to directly harm or kill someone is basically to save somebody else's life, or in some very, very specific situations where to basically prevent the same. And to have that be sort of what he states here is, I guess, kind of telling in terms of what his sort of evaluation of the situation is. But anyway, I just wanted to sort of bring that up because it's sort of like a interesting sort of character moment there. But that's all I got.
Well, it could be more interesting if they spent any time exploring anything in this episode.
Yes. But again, we have two plots that should really have been separated, and so we don't got time to reflect. Alas.
Yeah. But when we don't have any time to reflect, we just amuse ourselves with the Galaxy's favorite game show!
Woo! Hey everybody, welcome to the Galaxy's favorite game show. We got some contestants here, some of them from a remote planet that are just dripping with excitement to see how their scores have been tallied up here. And so let's get into it. The first prize to hand out is the Warp Maneuver Prize, which goes to Tasha this time, for as being, hinted at being a badass and all that, is just kind of killed unceremoniously by Armus. What does Tasha win, Yapin?
Well, given where modern Star Trek has been going, Tasha gets a previously unknown hidden backstory where this was just a front for her getting recruited by Section 13.
Well, it's either that or time travel paradoxes. But who would do an episode like that? Yeah. In fact, they probably have for the section people there. Anyway, our next prize is the Evil Incarnate Prize, which goes to Armus for at least thinking he's this, and being kind of a complete bastard on top of that. What does Armus win, Gepwin?
Armus wins some sort of, amusement park zoo enclosure. So he says he's bored, so you really could just bring people over. It's like, come see the epitome of all evil, and then you can have them, blow up a pumpkin or something. Ooh, look at that.
We love pumpkins on our planet. It's doing evil. The final prize here is the What Were They Thinking prize, because basically to everyone who mishandled Denise Crosby and the other women characters of the show to this point and beyond, because seriously, you should have given them so much better material here. Come on, guys. What are this disappointment situation and everyone involved? What do they win, Gepwin?
I mean, they're not going to, but they should win more of a reckoning with the fan base than they're getting. Because there are a lot of people that made a lot of bad decisions on these shows, and they get way too defended nowadays. Mm-hmm.
Remember, folks, if you're defending someone who is, kind of like Armus, a complete bastard, maybe you should just stop. Just a suggestion. Anyway, that's all I got here for today, Gepwood, in terms of prizes to hand out, though the scores will keep climbing for next time on the Galaxy's favorite game show.
Thank you for joining us and possibly not being as evil as a lot of the contestants here on the Galaxy's favorite game show. Woo!
So, do you like messing with time?
Sort of. If you do it in an interesting way.
Well, can we do it in an interesting way in Star Trek?
Later.
As in, next episode later?
Not that much, no. Get into other seasons before we get into particularly good time things. Time shenanigans.
At least for this upcoming episode, we get an episode with too many datas.
Yeah, too many datas is fun. I mean, this isn't so much time travel as it is a metaphor for regret. So,
yeah. So I guess it is important to always regret messing with time. Right?
So, next time is an episode that everyone will go, oh, yeah, that one. I kind of remember that.
Mm-hmm. And I believe there's also a scene on the holodeck.
It's an episode called We'll Always Have Paris, which ostensibly is about a dude who's messing with space-time and it goes sort of wrong and they have to come in and fix it, but mostly is about how Picard could have had sex with someone and didn't and regrets it.
Well, Picard, if you had, maybe you would have been happily married and you wouldn't have been the captain of this particular ship, or maybe you've been an admiral sitting at a desk job by this point, or maybe all sorts of other different possibilities. And that means that further down the road, when the Borg invade, the Federation gets assimilated, and you'll still have Paris, I guess, at that point. It'll just be a little different.
Yeah, now we don't have to do tapestry, so.
Yeah.
Different
regrets.
Over most of the plot with that anyway.
Different regrets from different time travel shenanigans.
So yeah, this episode's not actually particularly noteworthy. It's named after a line from Casablanca. They kind of ape some of it. Yeah. There's a scene with multiple datas and some interesting special effects that some people have talked about regretting because they did it mostly with camera work.
Yes. Though, having too many datas is also a thing from Casablanca, right?
Yes.
All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, that famous thing where he walks in, it's like, of all the bars in all the world, why are there too many datas in this one?
I don't know, but they have 27 seconds to do a thing.
So I know one remembers it because it's less than 30 seconds of the movie.
And then it's resolved, and no one talks about it ever again.
Yeah.
Capwin, what cities will we always have?
I don't know. Everywhere that I've been is going to wind up underwater in a few years.
Well, my area is probably going to be like, I don't know, brush fires a little bit after that. Where can we go hang out somewhere that's not going to be either melting or underwater?
I don't know. Somewhere high up.
Fairbanks,
also,
Alaska?
Sounds very poetic. Poetic, yeah.
We'll always have Fairbanks.
So it doesn't flow. Somehow doesn't flow as well. Maybe because we're just not used to it.
We'll always have Yellowknife. That doesn't work either.
All right, next time we're messing with time and regretting lost loves and creeping on holographic women that may or may not be based on the person you regret. It's very confusing.
Yes. Blame the Binars.
Yeah, I know. They upgraded the thing to... They upgraded the holodeck to be horny. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, next time we are going to have that place in France that Picard probably knows, even though he has the wrong accent.
Next time on Watchers of Tomorrow, Mannheim causes mayhem. You have been listening to Watchers of Tomorrow, a podcast on science fiction media. Find and follow Watchers of Tomorrow on Podbean, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Spreader, Digital Podcast, and perhaps many more to come. If you enjoy our podcast, make sure to subscribe for more. And where possible, make sure to rate your experience or leave us a review. You may find Gepwin on youtube.com/Gepwin and Twitter @Gepwin. You may find me, Dr. Isix, on youtube.com/Dr. Isix and Twitter @IsixLP. Music is Waveform and Mori's Principle, both by DRKRN. You can also check out the Watchers of Tomorrow Discord channel. Make sure to share the experience with your friends, family, enemies, and alien overlords. If you feel you are suffering from transporter syndrome, please be aware that the next time you step off the transporter, that you, that is now, no longer exists.